Hello again, it's John Russell, psychic, paranormal investigator, and author. And today, let's talk about some spooky things that go bump in the night, okay? That's always the fun stuff to talk about, isn't it? Um, First, I have to ask you, how do you like the hair? I'm going for that Giorgio Tsoukalos look, the guy from Ancient Aliens. So, that's what's going on there. Little humor, little fun, okay? First off, let's talk about doppelgangers, the ghostly doubles of people that we see. Some people say that they're literal physical doubles. Others say that they're paranormal, that they're ghostly doubles. I tend to go towards the latter. I think a lot of the appearances that we see are ghostly doubles, are paranormal doubles. And let me tell you one of the most interesting experiences I had when I was young. I had gotten up one morning and come through the house, and my mother would get up early and fix us all breakfast. And so I had gotten up early and come through the house and was walking into the dining room area from down a hallway. And I saw my mother outside on the front porch. We had a long front porch that was the width of the entire house. And so my mother was at one end of the porch walking toward the front door to come back inside. And that wasn't unusual for that time of morning because she would go out, get the paper, feed the birds, do that type of thing. So that wasn't odd to see her doing that, except I all of a sudden heard good morning. And I jerked my head over and looked, and my mother was sitting there at the dining room table. And I did a double take and looked back outside, and that doppelganger, that version of my mother had vanished. And I was just gobsmacked. I couldn't even speak for a second because I had clearly seen my mother in a solid physical form walking across our porch toward the front door. And then just as she approached the front door, my mother said good morning and was sitting there at the dining room table. So that was quite shocking. Now, doppelgangers, people will tell you that when you see a doppelganger, if it's your own, it predicts your death or whatever. I don't think so. I've never seen my own doppelganger. I wouldn't worry if I did, but I'd try and interact with it. And interestingly enough, seeing my mother's doppelganger and then seeing her right there, that brought us no bad luck, and she didn't suffer any ill health. She didn't die or anything. Nothing related to the incident. And so it was just one of those, wow, bump in the night moments. Um, a really fantastic doppelganger experience I had when I was a young man. I was driving one morning and I was dating this woman who was very distinctive, very flashy, had a very distinctive car. And I saw her coming the other way as on this long curve on the street that I was on. I was in the inside lane and she was on the inside lane, so we would pass close to each other. And I saw her coming, and I was out real early, and I thought, well, this is odd. Why is she out so early? This is not characteristic of her. And I thought, well, maybe I'm misidentifying the car and the person in it. But no, as it got closer, it was definitely her. There was absolutely no doubt whatsoever that it was her, and it was her car. And she had the strangest look on her face I have ever seen on the face of any human being. It was so bizarre. I remember it to this day. And as she got closer, I started honking and then I started waving. And so I expected her to look and to see me and to respond. And I honked again, waved again. And she never looked over. She just kept driving with her gaze straight ahead, fixed straight ahead on the road, and never paid me a bit of attention, never looked up. And she continued to drive on with the weirdest expression. I can't even describe it. The oddest expression I've ever seen, the weirdest expression I've ever seen on a human's face in my entire life. So, excuse me. So I thought, well, okay. And I had a phone in the vehicle, and I thought, well, I'll just call her and say, hey, I saw you, and what were you doing out so early? And I honked at you a couple of times, and you didn't acknowledge what's going on, and what are you doing out? So I called her home number, and imagine my shock when she answered on the second ring. And I had called immediately after I'd seen her. So she answered on the second ring, and I I don't know what to say. I said, what in the world are you doing home? And she said, well, John, that's a stupid question. Where else would I be? I live here, don't I? And I was like, yeah, but then I told her I'd just seen her doppelganger. And neither one of us could assign any specific meaning to it at the time, and never could figure out what it was about. Nothing bad happened to her, nothing bad happened to me. No weird occasions there. So couldn't really assign any meaning to that either. And then I've seen several more doppelgangers. There was a friend of ours that him and his wife we would see periodically. And we had gone to Niagara Falls, and this guy walked past us as we were standing there at the railing looking at the falls, and I was taking photographs. And this guy walked past us and stopped and turned around and looked at us. And we looked over at him, and he looked exactly like the husband of this couple, these friends of ours. And he just kind of nodded and walked on. And for some bizarre reason, neither me nor my wife said hello to him or called out to him or anything. And he stopped again and turned and looked at us again with this kind of quizzical look on his face. And he was a dead ringer for the husband of this couple that were our friends. And again, for some bizarre reason, we didn't call out, didn't interact or anything, and he walked on. And we said, well, isn't that the most bizarre thing? And we said, well, maybe they're up here, but where is she? And he would have stopped and said hi to us, what's going on? So we called the couple, and I called her, and she answered the phone, and I said, is he there with you? Is he on a trip? Because they were professional people, did trips and things. And she said, well, no, he's home. What? I said, is he in Canada? We were on the Canadian side of Niagara Falls. And she said, no, he's right here in New York with me. Why? And I said, okay, well, I'll tell you later. So we never did quite figure out that one either. And again, no bad circumstances, no bad luck, nothing bad happened to anybody. And then my wife and I were eating at a restaurant here in Florida, and there was a man that looked so much like my father that it was bizarre, as my father as an elderly man. And I wanted to interact with him. I wanted to talk to him, and it was like, this would be kind of rude. The man's sitting there eating, and I just couldn't bring myself to do it for some bizarre reason. And he really was the spitting image of my father. And I wish I had at least said something to him, or at least talked to him. And then I did interact with someone. I was in a state park here. I had ridden my motorcycle to one of the state parks, and I had been hiking. I was sitting on a bench relaxing, and here comes this guy by that's a dead ringer for a friend of mine back in New York. And I said, okay, this time I'm not going to let this one get away. And I said, hey, how's it going? He said, fine. I said, how you doing? How are things? And he's like, oh, as good as can be expected, and kept on walking. And his voice even sounded like my friend's. And I was like, okay. So why do we see these doppelgangers of these people that we know? And I've talked to other people that have seen them too. And my theory is, since it seems to be a paranormal or a supernatural occurrence, maybe it's just the other side adopting a form that we recognize to let us know that they're interacting with us, keeping an eye on us, watching over us. But I will tell you, and I don't know why I haven't before, it's almost like something's kept me. There's been some reticence there to interact with these doppelgangers. And it's not a fear, I'm not afraid, but it's just some kind of reticence to interact. But I guarantee you, the next doppelganger I see of a person that I know, I'm going to give them the third degree. Who are you? Where are you? Where'd you come from? What's going on? And I hope I don't get arrested for stalking or something. So anyways, there's some of my doppelganger experiences. And if you've had some, leave them in the comments. I'd like to hear about them. Another fun story that I'll tell you, very brief. My wife and I and her boy we had taken a road trip, and we were vacationing up in the Northeast, and we went by this building. We were walking along the sidewalk. We'd been walking around the city, and we walked by this building, and as we did, all three of us heard this loud tick, 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 like somebody sending Morse code on a telegraph. And we all stopped and looked at each other and went, what in the world? And there's not much traffic around. There was no other foot traffic around. We were basically alone on the sidewalk at that time of day. And it was clear visibility. Sun was out. It was late in the evening, but late in the afternoon. But clear visibility, sun was out, and no wind blowing, nothing to add, any kind of account for any odd sounds or any noise or anything like from wind or weather or anything like that. And we all looked at each other and was like, what in the world? And we just kind of started looking up around at the building, and on the building was a plaque. And this is what the plaque read: the site of Samuel F.B. Morse's first public demonstration of the telegraph. Wow. Yeah. So we heard a physical manifestation, a paranormal physical manifestation of the sound of the memory or recording or communication that was the site of Samuel Morse's first public demonstration of the telegraph. And we heard it very loudly, very distinctly, very clearly, and it was like, okay. Coins. Lots of people have coins appear. That's not too unusual, and the consensus is that the coins are messages from our deceased loved ones on the other side, or maybe even messages from angels. And I've had coins appear most of my life, but there was a time frame where coins appeared every time I turned around. They would appear in my shoe overnight. I'd get up in the morning, start to put on my shoe, and go, "What's in there?" And coins would come out. One time they manifested in the grocery store. A coin manifested in the grocery store. I was there early on a Sunday morning grocery shopping, and there was hardly anybody in the store at all. And you know how grocery stores are set up. The shelves go up to a certain height, and then it's open. You can see over the tops of those. And there's no ceiling. There's just, a big tall ceiling that has rafters that brace it, and the lights and whatever are up there. And that's way up high, so no place for anybody to be up there, and you'd see them if they were. So this man and his wife turned the corner and came down the aisle the other way of the aisle that I was headed up. And just before we passed each other, this coin fell straight down from the air and bounced, landed on the floor, ting, 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 and just kind of sat there, didn't roll away or anything. And the guy looked at his wife and he said, "Did you see that?" And here's where you can tell the difference between people that are scared of the paranormal, people interested in the paranormal. And she said, "Yes, hush, come on." And he's like, "But look, this coin just fell straight down out of the air. There's nobody up there. There's nothing up there. It wasn't thrown. It didn't come in on an arc or anything. It just fell straight down." And she's like, "Yes, be quiet, come on." And he said, "But don't you think that's the weirdest thing? Isn't that interesting? What do you think about that?" And he looked at me and he said, "Did you see that?" And I said, "Yeah, I did." And I knew what was going on. The guys on the other side were just manifesting, "Hey, we're here." And he kept expressing interest in it, and his wife was literally dragging him off and "We're not going to talk about this." So that was a coin incident. Another one happened. I remember I went into a store one time to buy some CDs, and I have a habit of always looking at the ground around me. I don't know why, but I always do. And I had gone into the store to buy some CDs. When I got out of the car, I looked down at the parking lot, and there was nothing there. And I got my CDs, came out, and when I came back to my car, I looked down, and right at the door, right underneath the car, a little ways out, right at the driver's side door, there were 3 coins placed in a triangle touching each other. And I was like, wow, that's pretty incredible. And on my motorcycle, I would pull into gas pumps, and you always on a bike have to be super careful pulling into gas pumps. There's dirt, there's oil, grease, whatever, and if the front tire catches that, slips on it, you're going down. So before you pull into the pump, you always have to look super careful, slow down, check everything out. And so I would notice if there were any coins there or not, obviously. And there's been many a times when I've pulled into a gas station, no coins there, get off my bike, fuel the bike, look down, and a coin would have appeared at my feet while I was fueling the bike. No noise, no drop, no loudness or anything, just a coin would have appeared. And yes, I do pick them up and keep them. They are solid, they are real. So most of these meanings seem to be good luck, communications from deceased loved ones, or maybe even communications from spirit guides, guardian angels, or whatever. I will tell you the actions on our side do affect the other side and our interactions with it. When we had the first economic crisis and we went into this huge crunch, the coin manifestations stopped. And I mean, I used to find coins everywhere. There wasn't a place I could go without finding coins, multiple coins sometimes. And when the economic crisis happened, the coin manifestations stopped, along with some other paranormal manifestations, for a long, long period of time. And it was like the other side was kind of saying, hey guys, what are you doing over there? And as things begin to ease up, then gradually the coin manifestations returned. And so there's a lot that we can make out of that. Electronic voice phenomenon, recording spirit voices with digital recorders or tape recorders, voice recorders, even recorders on your computer, desktop recorders that you have on your computer, and so on and so forth. I have recorded EVP successfully, gotten some very loud, very clear, very distinct voices, and I'll tell you the story behind those. What made me start doing that, I hold conversations with spirits in my head telepathically, and sometimes it's almost audibly to me, and I have complete conversations in complete sentences. So my TV producer said, why don't you get some EVP, and that'll be an additional marketing tool we can use. We were trying to gain get a show on the network at the time. And I said, okay. I said, but this is kind of a regression to me, because most EVP you get one or two words, maybe three words, very rarely a complete sentence, and a lot of the time it's very static and difficult to understand. And I said, why would I do that when I hold these crystal clear conversations with spirits in my head, and they give me information that we can validate, that we can verify? And he said, because a viewer doesn't get to hear those conversations with a spirit in your head. But if they hear the voice of a spirit on a tape recorder, it's an aha moment. Then they've got something they can relate to. And I said, oh, okay, that makes sense. So I started doing some EVP. One of the first things that I did, I was out in I left a hike in deserted woods, deserted forest, with no other people around. No civilization, nothing around, just me and the spirits in the woods, nature. And I was out there, and I turned on my recorder, and I said, is there anybody here? Can you say anything? And I got absolutely clearly and distinctly, peekaboo. Peekaboo. So the guys wanted me to know, yeah, we're out here, we see you, we're watching you, peekaboo, we're here. And if you want to hear that, go to my website, writingwithghosts.net. Scroll down toward the bottom of the page and look for Forest EVP, and click on that. There's also a volume control you can adjust, and you may hear it easier if it's a little softer, lower volume or whatever, so you can adjust that, but you'll hear it clear as a bell. It says peekaboo. And I went to the same forest, the same spot in the hike again, and said, hey guys, can you do it again? And I got peekaboo again, loud and clear. One of the most bizarre EVPs I went to Bonaventure Cemetery in Savannah, Georgia, and took ghost photographs and did a lot of EVP recordings. And then when I got back home, I listened to everything and so on. So in the cemetery, I'm back towards the back of the cemetery, and there's this beautiful river that runs behind it, and I'm standing there just kind of taking that all in. And I turn around, and there's this little tiny small grave a couple of feet long, and this child had died at the age of 1 or 2 years, something like that. And that's in my book, Writing with Ghosts, Angels, and the Spirits of the Dead. You can read about that and read many more stories than that. And you can get that at Amazon, anywhere. Go to my website, again, to the one you go to look for the EVP, writingwithghosts.net. There's links there to buy at Amazon or independent small booksellers, however you would prefer to get it. Excuse me. So I look down and I see this little small grave, and I'm just heartbroken, because I think, God, look, these parents had this child, and oh boy, we've got this child, and we love him, and what's he going to grow up to be, and how's he going to develop, and what's life going to treat him like, and how's he going to tackle life? And then a couple of years later, he's dead. How heartbreaking that had to be. And it broke my heart. I'm this grizzled old biker. I'm just, I am who I am, and I haven't done anything special to deserve the years of life I've had, or my psychic gift, or any of the wonderful paranormal experiences I've had. And it broke my heart that I was standing there and this kid had died so young. And I cursed the Reaper. I said, damn. And I meant it as a curse for the Reaper. I said it aloud, and I was just so upset at this tragedy. So as I did that, I turned on the recorder and I said, is anyone here? Is there anything anybody wants to say? Let the recorder run for 10, 15 seconds, and then I shut it off, and I had to get back home, so I had to leave, and I did this in a day trip on the bike from Florida up to Savannah and back. And so the next day, I'm going through all the recordings. I didn't get any ghost photographs. I've got successful spirit photography before, but no ghost photographs this time. Darn it. And I'm going through the EVP, and I get to the very last one I recorded. And that was the one I recorded where I was standing at the small child's grave, the little tiny grave, and cursing death. And there's a voice clear as a bell, and it says, "Are you angry?" I said, "Yeah." Yes, I was. So there was a spirit standing there with me that possibly could have read my mind or definitely heard me speak the curse and asked me, "Are you angry?" Like, yeah, I was angry. I was angry at death and angry at the unfairness of life and the pain, the suffering, and misery of life. But it was quite astonishing to know that there was someone standing there with me that could relate to my emotions and could tell what my emotions were. So those are some experiences I've had with EVP. I'm starting to work with it more now and try and get more what they call Class A voices. That's like the peekaboo voice that you can hear without headphones. You don't have to reduce the noise. You don't have to have special software or anything. It's just there loud and clear. And lately I have gotten to a duplicate voice each time in two different occasions, two different locations, one in the house and one outside. And when I ask if anybody's there and if they can speak, you know how Homer Simpson, "Doe." Well, that's the voice I got, "Doe." And I got it once inside the house, I got it once outside the house, and it's very loud and very clear. You can hear it very clearly and distinctly. So I haven't really figured that one out yet, other than, yeah, we're here. Of course we can speak, but I'm working on continuing to do some EVP. If you get anything interesting, let me know. You can email me, johnrussellpsychic at hotmail.com. So the last story here I'm going to leave you with, this was one of the most dramatic. I had, in my teenage years, I had been living on my own in an apartment, and through various circumstances, I moved back with my parents. And I have had severe chronic health problems my entire life. And in between bouts of not being able to do anything, I have pushed myself as hard as I could. I ran distance, I played tennis, I lifted weights, I swam, all manner of things. So I practiced martial arts. I practiced Taekwondo and Tang Soo and Shotokan and Kung Fu and lots of things. So when I could do what I could do, I would push myself very hard. And after I had moved back home, we had this neighbor, and it broke my heart to see this guy. He had been like a good chess player, and he did all his own yard work, and he built things, and out of wood, he built this big swing in the backyard that me and his grandson used to play on when we were just kids, and all this type of thing. A really smart man, and he developed Alzheimer's, developed dementia, and he would hallucinate things, and maybe he was seeing the other side, I don't know, but he would hallucinate things, and he would swing at them with his cane. He'd get mad at his wife, swing at her with his cane, and sometimes they would have to call me to come over and calm him down. For some reason, he responded to me, and I was the only one that could calm him down. And I would shave him. He had an electric razor, and in spite of his dementia, he knew enough to stick his tongue up into his cheek to make the surface of his cheek firmer for me to run the razor on. And I would come over and shave him and do that. So, and they would ask me to do little chores every now and then for him, and of course I didn't mind. So one time she asked me if I would come over and hang these new curtains in the living room on this curtain rod. I said, sure, not a problem. So they had a little small step ladder, 3 or 4 steps on it. And she said, okay, here's the thing, here's the step ladder, and he's in the den, so I'm going to go keep an eye on him. So I said, okay. So it necessitated me getting up on the very top step of the step ladder to reach the curtains and the curtain rod and everything, to do everything, change the curtains out. So while I was up there, I was just finishing up, and very uncharacteristically for me, I suddenly lost my balance for no apparent reason, and I began to fall. And I began to fall back toward my left. Now, in a split second, this runs through my mind, and it was realistic and it was completely workable. Through my martial arts training and the tumbling I'd learned in judo and some of the flying kick techniques and things I had learned, I knew that I could swing back this way with my torso as I was falling, and then rapidly and violently twist my torso to the left as I was falling through the air and twist myself in the air so that as I landed, I would land on my hands and knees and not be injured. And I wasn't worried at all because I absolutely knew that I could do that, literally. So as I'm fixing to initiate that maneuver, this strong, large hand places itself at my left hip and the left portion of my back and pushes me back up on the stepladder and holds me until I get completely stable again. And I'm like, oh, wow, cool. And my first thought, now, mind you, the hand is still on me, all this going through my mind rapid fire. My first thought is that somehow the guy, who was a large guy, big guy, had silently entered the living room, seen me fall, and come and caught me. And that was the first thing that went through my mind. And the hand was absolutely solid, absolutely physical. And so before the hand even actually pulled away from me, I turned my head and looked down to say, oh, thank you. And not a soul in the flesh was there. And I was like, wow. And I was a good ways, they had a large living room, and I was a good ways from any of the doors that anybody, the doorways in the rest of the house that anybody could have come in or out of. And it had been like a second since I felt the hand push me and steady me on the top of the ladder till I looked over to say thank you. And nobody could have run out of the room. It was a large room and you'd had to cover a lot of distance. Nobody could have run out of the room that fast. Nonetheless, and in spite of all the paranormal experiences I'd had up to this point, I snuck through the house real rapidly and went to the den, and there they sat in the den and watching TV, and I think she was reading or knitting or doing something. And I was like, wow, I've just been saved by a spirit who literally manifested the strength in a physical hand to touch me, to keep me from falling, and to hold me and to push me back up on the step ladder and hold me until I regained my balance. Wow, what an experience. So yes, guardian angels are real. They can manifest in the physical dimension in a physical way. So I ran back through the house, got back up on the stepladder, finished the chore, kept looking around to see if whoever had stopped my fall would reappear. Maybe the ghost or the guardian angel, whoever it was, would show up and say, hey, you're welcome. But they didn't, and I finished the chore, got down from the stepladder, and went on back through the house to inform them that the chore was complete, and then went on. And that's an experience that I cherish to this very day. So there's some neat things that go bump in the night experiences. I'll have more as we go on here, as we continue with these videos. I hope you're enjoying them. I'm enjoying them. Please click subscribe, if you will. If you want to know more about me, go to my website, johnrussell.net, and that tells you information about my credentials, my background, experience, clients' testimonials. If you want to schedule a reading with me, you can do it there. If you'd like more information on my books, writingwithghosts.net and aknockintheattic.net, which is my very newest book. And there are links there to buy from whatever bookseller online that you would enjoy purchasing from. And I would appreciate that very much if you'd pick up a copy and leave me a nice review. That would mean a lot to me. So, hope you're enjoying these. Subscribe to my channel here, my YouTube channel, and there will be more to come. If you've had any interesting experiences like that with doppelgangers or interesting coin stories, coins appearing out of nowhere, or anything else that we've discussed, or that you'd like to leave or discuss, please feel free to leave your comments in the comment section below. I do read all my comments that come in, and look forward to that. So again, I'm John Russell, psychic, paranormal investigator, author. God bless you. Thank you for tuning in, for viewing this. Again, subscribe to the channel. Keep coming. I hope you're enjoying it. I'm enjoying doing these for you. And God keep you safe and watch over you. And I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.